Sometimes the hardest part about creating isn't the art itself, it's that moment right before we begin. That tiny pause where inspiration whispers hundreds of different ideas, and suddenly, we don't know which one to follow. Gel printing invites endless play with color, texture, layers, and movement. And on top of that, we can pin, save, screenshot hundreds, maybe even thousands of ideas for inspiration. When everything seems possible in an art process, it can feel surprisingly hard to choose that first step. In today's video, I'm going to show you a simple way to begin your gel plate printing. We're going to cut through all of that noise so that you don't get overwhelmed before you even get started. All right, let's head over to my art table and I will talk about the 4 things I do to have a successful gel plate printing session. So first of all, I've got to get this gel plate cleaned up. So I'm just taking a green color of paint here and I'm going to roll it all over both gel plates, then covering it with a piece of paper and then a stack of magazines. Want that paper to sit for about 30 to 45 minutes. So set yourself a timer, then we'll start getting things prepped for our paint session. You can run out, grab a cup of coffee, and don't forget to get your assistant a pup cup. Coming back to my house, this is a great time to clean up your mess and prepare for our painting session. But before we dive in, I would love to know which is more likely to stop you, too many ideas or not enough? Whichever way you answer, I'm pretty confident that setting yourself some parameters before your painting session will help you either way. Now, the parameters I like setting aren't anything too strict. Think of them as a container for your creativity, just enough structure to help you begin while still leaving room to follow your curiosity. So before I set my 4 parameters, I like to give myself a theme. And I really thought that I just had to take advantage of this beautiful fall day, so I went outside and I decided to focus on the fall colors and textures. And now that I have that theme, I'm going to go through 4 different things before I start painting. Gathering my textures, choosing my gel plate size, deciding on and prepping my papers, and choosing a limited color palette. So I'm going really budget friendly today and I'm heading outside in my crazy artist Crocs and I'm gathering my textures, which included leaves and a bunch of this ornamental grass. Back inside my studio, the 40-minute timer is up and that means I can peel off the papers that were on my gel plate. It's leaving me with this really cool green and gold. So now I need to choose the gel plate size and I'm going to go ahead and use what's already on my table, an 8x10 and a 6x6. My advice is to choose a plate that goes well with the textures that you've chosen. From there, you're going to decide the types of paper you want to use and the size. So the size of the plate will probably help you determine the sizing. So for this, I cut the watercolor paper down to a 6x6 to fit perfectly on my square plate. And then I take this biggie drawing paper, I cut this into fourths, and I use that paper on my 8x10 gel plate. So this is what it looks like off to the side. I have both papers plus some deli paper that I like to use to roll off my extra paint from my brayer. So the final and sometimes hardest parameter that I set is choosing a limited color palette. For this session, I'm using a leaf as my inspiration and I'm picking out some lighter colors that I plan to be the base layer. And then I'm also picking some darker colors that are going to provide a lot of contrast, and that will be the top layer of the prints I plan on making. Taking a few minutes to pre-plan the color palette will save you so much time down the road. And remember, it's just a starting off point. You can always add more colors later if you find yourself inspired. Okay, our gel plate is ready. We've got our paper, our textures, our paints. Let's get started printing. So because I have my color palette already picked, I am going to the side here and grabbing some of the lighter colors that I chose. And I just want to start some base layers on both sizes of paper. So I'm mixing up different yellows and golds and cream colors, even some of the lighter like green gold, and I'm creating these background papers. I also enjoy this part of the process because it's just that really easy entry point, very low pressure, easy, like one or two colors, creating these background papers, it's also a really good time to remind yourself that that's what's important here. Low pressure, having fun, and the process is more important than the results. After I have that really good pile of background papers, I move on to this high contrast second layer, which I am using the ornamental grass for. And that little happy accident that just happened is the result of when I roll across the ornamental grass, there's like that line work is like remaining on the brayer. So you'll see it again in a moment. When I'm using the grass, I lay it down on the plate and I use a brayer. Normally I use a brayer, sometimes I use my hand to press the grass into the paint. And off to the side there, that's just a video to show you what kind of ornamental grass that is, what it looks like outside. And I try to work myself around the gel plate, creating lots of different grass lines, and then trying not to overwork them, because sometimes I take off too much paint. Then I'm laying down the yellow background paper and I'm pointing to that corner because I'm trying to match it up to the top of the gel plate, which doesn't work and that actually ends up being okay. So I'm rolling off my extra paint onto the side on that deli paper and that's the result. And I was loving that I had that on deli paper instead of in my art journal to the right. So here's one of my first prints and I realized that there's this like long, almost like thread piece from the grass. I don't know, it was like that grass kind of sheds, but it shows this little squiggle in there. But the main reason that I'm showing this particular print is because I love the way that the blue and yellow didn't perfectly match up and the way they're offset. And that inspires me to do the next idea that I have. So the gel plate is left with this kind of speckly blue and like leftover mess. And I put green gold across the entire plate. Then I'm pressing some paper down and peeling up. And I love the texture that that's creating, but it's also cleaning off my gel plate for this next part. So that previous print with the blue and yellow that was offset has inspired me to want to try this like color blocking technique. So now I'm using the light colors again, but I'm only putting paint on part of the 8x10 gel plate. It never goes all the way across. So that way, when I do the grass texture again, and I put these background papers on, there will be like an intentional color blocking effect. So this is also a good spot for me to tell you that the full process video will be posted on my YouTube as well, because this is highly trimmed down and sped up and chopped up to show you the main highlights of this printing session. And then just little fun snippets like this because I love when my brayer has really cool designs on it. Every once in a while I do use my little craft dryer. I would just use that sparingly or not at all depending on if you're a rule follower. So this is my first result of that color blocking technique and I'm really loving it. And what I want to highlight here is how I was not planning on that happening. That was the result of me coming to my table with one idea of using the grass or the leaves and then letting the experimentation happen. In this spot here, I'm peeling up the leftover blue paint because when I do this color blocking technique, what ends up happening is the one side with the paint peels everything off, but then the other side leaves the little remnants of the grass left behind. And in order to kind of clean my plate off before the next pull, I was using another piece of paper to pick up that paint rather than like cleaning it off and wasting that paint. So here I'm going to run through and show you some of my favorite prints from this session. Hey, this one kind of matches my outfit. I had to leave that in there because I thought it was funny. Here are the 6x6 watercolor paper examples. I honestly don't even think I showed any of these in this shorter YouTube video. They weren't my favorite. I didn't like how it wasn't pulling up all of the paint. But then I have several other prints that I really liked with different shades of blues and yellows and greens. And then one print where I did only white in the background. Okay, see how easy that can be? Minimal supplies, getting you to that one print, and when you see something fun that excites you, take that and run with it. In the next video, I'm going to be busting a myth, the myth that you need a craft store's worth of supplies to get started with gel plate printing. You don't, and I'm going to show you how. If that video is posted, it will be here on the screen for you to click. And as always, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.